Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup, is back on the road. Just 2 weeks after the season opener at Brands Hatch, we're now on the Adriatic coast. We're at the Misano circuit in Italy for 2 more sprint races. And there's a bit of a twist this weekend because they're both going to be on the same day, the second in the darkness, under the lights here at Misano. It promises to have 2 really exciting races thrown at us this weekend, and anything can happen around this fast, flat Italian circuit. We've had 1 endurance round, and this our 2nd Sprint Cup event of the year, so there's very little form to go on, but we know that Lamborghini, Ferrari, BMW, McLaren, Mercedes-AMG are all likely to be quick around here. Europe, of course, is part of that 4-strong championship that makes up the global Fanatec GT World Challenge calendar. And as far as Europe is concerned, we've had 1 endurance race already at Paul Ricard, and the next event is coming up as the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa, the Blue Ribbon event. Then we're back to sprint in Germany. There's Magny-Cours and Barcelona to round out the sprint season. The winners are more than likely going to come from the pro category, and the man that took a really impressive pole position at Brands Hatch, the young British driver, Ben Green.
Everyone's really motivated and working hard, which is nice, and yeah, we go forward with a lot of motivation and energy to go into this weekend.
A winner here 12 months ago, Valentino Rossi arrives as a more complete driver in 2024. And nowadays the fans come not only expecting to see him, but to see him do well. Around his home circuit, Valentino Rossi is certainly going to be a man to watch this weekend as he looks for a 2nd Sprint Cup win.
It's very special to race here in Misano because this is really my home track. I live just 10 kilometers from here, and I growing up with the motorcycle in this track. And also it's the track where I did more kilometers also with the cars, so I have a good experience. Last year was unforgettable because it was my first victory. So very happy to be here, and I hope to be competitive.
After a somewhat dominant display in race 2 at Brands Hatch, Mauro Engel and Lucas Auer come here as the drivers to beat in pro in the championship. And Lucas Auer is in fine form after that Brands victory.
As long as we switch on the tires, we find the right balance. I think we should be competitive, but Brands Hatch was outstanding. The championship is too tough to repeat this so closely, but I still think we will be competitive.
You can never rule out Audi in pro, and Lorenzo Ferrari gets better all the time. He's one to watch here.
At the moment, yes, we're looking fine. Quali for sure will be out there because everyone will come out with their strategies. So yeah, at the moment we look good. We'll see.
There are battles outright, there are battles in the classes, and the Gold Cup that caters for gold and a silver graded driver was really competitive at Brands Hatch, where Luca Engschler took a win.
That's difficult. Like since Brands, we struggle a bit with the car and we don't know really where it's coming from. So yeah, the boys are obviously working flat out. Also Max and me are trying to help as good as we can, as good as drivers can help. But yeah, seems to be a bit of a struggle, yeah.
And keep an eye as well on the Silver Cup, where 2 silver graded drivers share the car. And this is where you look at the young guns of GT racing. Amongst them, the very rapid French driver César Gazot, who was another really feisty racer at Brands Hatch 2 weeks ago.
Leading the championship is like a great feeling, but yeah, it's like the season is still really long, so I'm like focused race by race, winning points, and yeah, for sure it's like the goal of the season, but we need to be like focused race by race and be like made sure to be able to win the championship.
The first round of the Bronze Cup is this weekend, where at least 1 bronze-graded driver must be in the car. Gabriel Rindoni moves across from Lamborghini Super Trofeo to Fanatec GT.
I'm trying. The competition is very strong, I have to say, and that's what we love about GT World Challenge. But we're trying, we're doing our best. The car is good, and we're improving to go and get that result that we're aiming at.
And Jonathan Hui has been a class winner in the past, but mainly in endurance. Now he turns his attention to the Sprint Cup for Sky Tempesta Racing with the Ferrari 296, and he is going to be in the thick of the battle in the class, there's no doubt about that, as we get set for racing here in Italy.
Well, there's some new elements this year because we're doing both endurance and the sprint, and here we are for the first round in Misano, so there's a lot of unknowns. My last sprint race was in 2020, that was 4 years ago, with Giancarlo Fisichella in Magny-Cours, and that went quite well because I won both rounds. So that doesn't mean that we're extra optimistic this weekend, but certainly the car's been performing really well, and there's reason to be optimistic.
The sun is shining, the temperature is very hot indeed, the pit lane is open, and we are getting closer to going racing here at Misano, and it is going to be Maxime Martin on pole position. He didn't do the fastest time, but he did take pole position because Dries Van Voor lost a lap time for the dreaded track limit abuses, of which there have been hundreds over the course of the last day and a half here. So Maxime Martin inherited pole position, and that was a hugely popular result given that he shares the car with Maxime Martin and with Valentino Rossi, local hero, and they are very much the favourites going into this race. David Anderson and John Watson trackside for this 4.2 kilometre long circuit. And Watty, this is the Misano track.
16 turns and a lot of long radius corners, but it's the outside of the corner where you've got to be careful. Track limits will be punished severely, and I have to underline severely.
Because warnings will come and then time penalties will come when you get to 6, and it's very easy with 6 different corners being policed to overstep the mark and for those penalties to get closer and closer. So BMW on the front row with Ferrari. Great effort yesterday by Ben Green, who was on pole position at Brands Hatch. We've had 3 different qualifying sessions giving us 3 different pole positions. Now if you take the 2 at Brands and the 1 element going into this race, Ben Green pole at Brands, 2nd on the grid here, and third Matthew Drudy doing another good job in this nascent Aston Martin Vantage. So with the fans looking on, eager to see number 46 take a win for the 2nd year in a row here, it is a really interesting jumbled grid. Bear in mind the championship leading car, Maro Engel, Lucas Auer's Mercedes, will start 21st on the grid. The Mercedes teams have all been struggling.
Lucas Auer in that interview summed it up. It was, can we turn the tyres on? And because qualifying on Friday evening was in darkness, essentially, one session just getting into the dark, second session clearly in darkness. And the key is low track temperatures. Mercedes and other brands, McLaren as well, struggled in that opening flying lap to turn the front tyre in particular on. Now, temperatures are much higher now for the start of this race than they were last night. But nevertheless, starting all the way back, as we're going to see Maro Engel behind the wheel on the 11th row of the grid. Even if they get the tyre temperature, where are they going to get the opportunities to overtake? This is a tough circuit to overtake. And if you try to do something creative and it takes you off track, you're going to be penalised for doing so. Maybe patience is not the solution, but the best option. But even patience doesn't give you points if you can't get into the point scoring positions.
Marvin Dean's third, the German F4 champion a few years ago, another Porsche specialist. He's been racing these cars in a variety of championships of late, and the car that he shares with Philip Zaga entered in the Bronze Cup, which makes its first appearance of the Sprint Cup season. We're a bit limited on where that can run, given the number of garages in the pit lane to accommodate a huge entry. So we have a bigger grid here than we did at Brands Hatch. We have got 34 cars here. We lost one yesterday after an incident, but 34 is still a very, very strong grid indeed. And the cars these days, once they've left the pit lane, can't keep going through and doing repeated installation laps. They've got to come straight round to the grid. The pit lane has just about closed, and I think everybody is now out on track.
I mean, this is a big field of cars on a racetrack. As I say, that's difficult to overtake. But it's easier than it was last year, David, because we had 42 cars on the grid. So we're down by about 7 or 8 cars on what we had in 23. And I don't know whether that'll make any difference to those that are caught in the midfield or the tail of the field, because they're still going to find it as difficult to overtake as those 1 year ago did.
One thing that you can do if you are in the Pro Cup or Gold and Silver is gain on the pit stops. If you're in the Bronze Cup, it's a regimented time. So again, because that's, if you like, aimed at the AMs, not all AM drivers, because you get some really good drivers in as the co-driver, but that's where the regulation time comes in. As we saw at Brands Hatch, you can win or lose on the pit stops, and WRT have proved to be masters of that. So Brands Hatch winning combination, Dries Van Voor, Charles Weert, 6th on this grid, but on the pit stops, they may well be able to buy themselves some places.
But they did get a single lap in, which gave them momentarily provisional pole position. Yeah. But it was taken away because somewhere around the 16 turns, Dries Van Voor put 4 wheels off the racetrack, and that time was deleted. but it was indicative of the pace that the 32 BMW and Dries van Voor has. And then that was confirmed in the second qualifying session when Charles Vetz put that very same car actually on to pole position.
Caught a glimpse a moment ago of Ben Green, who will go first for Emil Frey Racing in the car that's going to be second on this grid, which is very, very busy indeed. You can see where the pole position boards are, the Rover boards indicating the pole awards. Silver pole to Callum Williams, his second of the year. The gold pole to Lucas Legere, his second of the year. And Marvin Dienst on the AM pole. Is there a gap on the grid? There is, by the look of it. And I want to say that's where the Callum Williams BMW, it's there, it's coming through. It's not trapped in the pits, it's just the orange car there you can see working its way through the very crowded grid. So it's there, it's heading to its grid box, all is good. This circuit, yes, we've touched on track limits, and yes, because there are low curbs and these are quick cars, people can run wide, do run wide. It's a circuit that has an awful lot of motorbike racing, hence the flat curbs. It plays host to truck racing as well. There's Valentino Rossi making his way around the car. But it is also a circuit with a good mix of corners.
I mean, there's a variety of corners. There's no what I would call out-and-out high-speed corner. The corners all the way from the exit of 10 down to 14 are a series of gradually tightening curves. But there's no real high-speed corner that's going to put a serious challenge on any one of these cars here this afternoon.
A wave to the fans. As there is Valentino Rossi. Now, let's hear from Mauro Engel, 21st on the grid. Antonio Rankin is with our championship leader.
Now, Mauro, you might have one of the best liveries on the grid, but perhaps at Misano, not one of the best cars?
No, I think our car is great. The AMG GT3 is great. It's just been a struggle for us over the whole weekend to switch the tires on. And yeah, obviously not a great starting position. Luckily, Luki managed in his last set to switch one on, and that gives us a better chance in race 2.
What's your strategy going to be to make sure you end up closer to the front?
Well, we need to try and make up as many paces as possible and hopefully get to the points. That's the aim.
Well, best of luck with that. Thank you.
It's interesting that it's hit the Mercedes AMG teams this year because they've gone well in the past here.
Yes, I have, but also remember the last year's here, July, 35 Celsius, so plenty of temperature. I mean, what Mauro Engel was suggesting was that when you went out last night in his qualifying session, that was qualifying 1, he couldn't get the front tire temperature up, and by the time he got it up, it was halfway through the 10-minute session.
Yeah.
So he got an opportunity, but he'd done 3 laps on those tires, so the peak of the performance had maybe just dropped away. And there was precious little time to come in, put on another set of tires, a newer or a fresher set of tires, then to go back out and have to repeat the whole process over and over again. Now, Lucas Auer did manage somehow to do an absolutely blinding time in the car that Mauro Engel will be starting this race in. Don't know why it worked for Lucas Auer, and Mauro Engel maybe struggled. Maybe the lessons learned from what happened in Q1 were passed through to Q2.
Matthew Drudy, you just saw on the grid. Third, he will start, and very much the trailblazer for the Comptieu Aston Martin team, sharing with the son of Comptieu's owner, Jean-Michel Bart, Nicolas Bart. And there at the rear of the grid, you can see where 51 of Salo Joric will start and Charlie Eastwood's Ferrari will go from. The other Winwood Racing entry there, Magnus Gustafsson and Reece Barr. Same team that runs the man-filter-coloured car of Mauro Engel and Lucas Auer. But it's going to be an interesting race for sure, with a number of cars really having qualified out of position and what progress can be made. You've also got the reigning British GT champions on the grid, because starting 19th are Dan Harper, who is the Endurance Championship leader, and Darren Lung. Darren's doing selected endurance and the WEC this year, but decided, well, do you know what? Why not go race at Misano? A bit of seat time. So he and Dan Harper and Nathan Freak's Century Motorsport team all hooking up like they did last year when they won British GT. And a great reception from the fans for the Italian national anthem, which takes us closer to blast-off here for the first of these 2 one-hour races, both of which will be today, rather than having one today and one tomorrow. That means that the second race is going to be a night race at the end of the evening, starting at 9 o'clock. Completely different challenge for the drivers. It's pretty breezy looking down on the grid, so that's helping to keep things just a tad cooler than it would have been last July. Let's quickly catch up with our gold pole winner. That's Lucas Legere, his second pole of the year.
Lucas, you've had an incredibly dominant start to the season in your gold category. What a great way to begin.
Yeah, double pole for Simon and myself, so we're going to continue pushing. We have still some points to work as a team, but yeah, we're going to try to do our best to get victories during these 2 races.
How are you going to adapt to the different conditions between this race and race 2?
Yeah, so it was tricky yesterday in qualifying. I struggled a little bit, very, very low grip. I think Audi struggled as a brand in performance during this condition compared to the others. So for sure it's going to be tricky, but we'll analyze a little bit from yesterday in qualifying to see where we can maybe change the setup of pressure. And yeah, we're going to give it our best. Simon starts P4, so for sure it's a good starting position, and we'll see where we end up, honestly.
Well, you're doing an excellent job so far. Thank you.
Thank you.
And when Lucas Legere touches on the team, CSA Racing, Arthur Rougier's team, new to the championship this year, so developing, learning, but they've got a good base car to work with, the Audi.
Yes, I mean, the Audi's been very successful here for many, many years.
Yeah.
Interesting, Lucas Legere mentioning we're trying to maybe adapt the car, but more maybe make adjustments to the tyre pressures. And of course, if you run a softer pressure on your front tyre in particular, you're going to put more load into the tyre more quickly and therefore generate more heat. But of course, Pirelli, the tyre supplier, are also conscious that teams might want to do these little tricks, but they're not necessarily favourable. And there's a guideline, I think, that Pirelli offered to teams and recommended pressures for every brand here this weekend.
We are 10 minutes away from the start of the formation lap. There is a car starting 6th that could yet be a winner. Dries van Thor goes first for Team WRT. Coming here as a team after a disappointing run on home soil in the WEC last week, losing a car to an accident. But Dries van Thor, Charles Weerts, a win and a 7th at Brands, 2nd in the championship. I can't believe that car is going to be 6th all the way through the opening stint. I'm sure Van Thor will make progress, and a good pit stop. That car could well be in the reckoning for a win in stint 2.
I mean, unquestionably, that's a quick car, and 2 quick drivers get through the first lap without any contact. Where they are on the grid, well, on the 3rd row of the grid, it's not disaster by any stretch of the imagination, but there are still 5 other cars directly ahead of them who think they're going to have a shot at getting a podium as well. Drivers
then putting on their crash helmets, getting ready. We just touched on that 32 BMW. Let's hear the thoughts of the drivers. They're both with Antonia.
You've definitely got the pace this weekend. How are you going to make sure that you end up in P1 at the end?
By overtaking all the other cars, which is something I'll do. I mean, I made a mistake yesterday, I'll make up for it today.
I mean, it was cruelly stripped from you in qualifying 1, and you're starting in P1 in race 2. Do you think you'll be able to compensate for that deficit today?
Well, I have little doubt about Dries' ability to move forward during the race. Yeah, we drive on the limit, and sometimes we exceed it by a very thin margin. Fortunately, it didn't work out for Dries yesterday, but still did an amazing job, and I'm sure he will do a great today again. And then we have again the best crew in the pit stop, so hopefully we can make up some good places for this race.
Of course, I'm sure you'll keep it between the lines. Thank you.
Yeah, yesterday Antonio was setting off to go talk to Dries van Thor as the pole winner, and then had to say, oh, actually, you've not got it, because as all the penalties were updated, because there were so many, they couldn't all be processed at once. The timing screen changed and kicked him down the order to 6th and put Maxime Martin onto pole. So Antonio had to apologise and head in a different garage.
Thinking about what can the 32 BMW do, I think obviously the car's got natural pace. They're going to try and make up as many positions in the earliest phase of the race as possible. We know WRT are stunning in the pit stops, but to me, the key for every team here, but particularly the 32 BMW, will be when you choose to make your pit stop, not the fact that you will have to do it. It'll be key.
That's Sven Muller as we quickly go back to the grid.
Kalan, silver pole sitter, there's no better place to start.
No, it should be a good race. P5 overall as well, so yeah, look to maximise the start and first lap, and yeah, keep pushing from there.
Will you be able to rack up some overall points today?
I hope so, yeah. I mean, we already did in Brands Hatch Race 1 as well. We had a good one, both of us. So, yeah, I'll do what I can in my stint. Sam will do what he can at the end, and yeah, see how we end up.
Of course, hop in. Best of luck.
Callum Williams then, silver pole position. He was part of that Gold Cup battle last year. He and Sam DeHaan took a win at Brands Hatch, and an 8th and a 15th as the overall results. So drivers good to go. It's a rolling start, of course, as you look down at number 72, part of the bronze battle, Patrick Kujala and Gabriel Rindoni. Patrick Kujala is a much underrated, very, very quick Finn. And Mark Lemmer, who runs Barwell Motorsport, who operate this car, is very, very good at identifying quick, underrated drivers. He's a big supporter of Dennis Lind, a big supporter of Patrick Kujala, and so whenever he needs a gun for hire, as it were, he's got a good address book. So Kujala will be a man to watch over that first stint. Maxime Martin then, starting on pole position. 3-minute board is displayed. And before we do go racing, let's quickly check in with the pole man, with Maxime Martin.
Maxime, WRT are incredibly dominant already this weekend. Do you think you'll be able to keep the rest of your sister cars behind you?
Yeah, I mean, that's the target always when you start a race in front. But, you know, the race is long. We need to be focused, not do any mistakes at the pit stop. And if all goes well, we shouldn't be too bad.
Of course, all eyes to turn one. Best of luck.
Maxime Martin, who's been in and out of SRO GT racing over the years, of course, part of the original intake with the Mark VDS BMW, went off to drive for BMW in the DTM, then for Aston Martin in sports car racing, has come back into the WRT fold and to BMW, and is as quick as ever. Rarely do you find Maxime Martin making mistakes as well.
No, and he's been a great sort of, you might call, driver coach for Valentino Rossi. Yeah. So the pair of them working as a team, and Valentino learning from the years of experience and the sort of the natural speed that Maxime Martin has had throughout his career.
Ben Green, second on the grid. We were saying at Brands Hatch how he really looks like he's been racing at this level for a long, long time. A race winner in the ADAC GT Masters, the German Championship, which is competitive, yes, but he looks like he's been on this grid for a long time. Tom Gamble, he in the Garage 59 McLaren, starting 9th on the grid. Now, in these warm temperatures, the McLarens might make some progress.
I think that because the ambient is that much higher than last night, McLaren are confident they're going to get more front tyre temperature more quickly, and therefore they're looking to make progress. But again, starting back on the, well, they're on the 5th row of the grid. It's the same problem everybody has behind the front row of the grid. Where are you going to find a slot to overtake? And certainly the opening lap is the time when people will try to make situations develop for themselves, but in the process you need to be careful because everybody's going to be thinking, I'm going to do the same thing, and of course that leads to chaos.
Well, we are very close to going racing into the last minute before the cars move away. Engines now fire up. The engineers will leave the grid. The leading car, the Lamborghini Huracan, is there to take the cars around on the formation lap, and Lamborghini providers of the leading car and the safety car for Fanatec GT in Europe these days. And with the second race being in the darkness, this will be the one daylight race that the teams get. Totally different feel, totally different temperature, totally different reference points from this race to the next. It's a busy Misano circuit, the circuit Marco Simoncelli, as the officials then at the start line wait for everybody to sprint back into the pit lane. The Rossi faithful are set. Valentino himself a little nervous, no doubt, in the pit lane, but his car is in good hands for that first stint. The engines are all fired up. The grid is just about clear. If you're at the back of the grid, you've got a longer run to get to safety. The leading car accelerates away, and that means that the green flag can be waved to release the race cars. We get set for the formation lap, which is underway. Maxime Martin in the BMW accelerates then down towards turn 1, pursued by Ben Green. There's a chance for them to get a bit of warmth into the Pirelli rubber, ready to go racing. And the first pinch point will be that turn 1, 2, 3S at the start of the lap. And if you get through that safely, then you can think about the rest of the race. So Maxime Martin starts on pole with Ben Green alongside him. Mathieu Drudy will go from 3rd, and Marvin Dienst is 4th. 5th on the grid, Callum Williams, and Dries van Thor is 6th. Patrick Kujala 7th with Sven Muller for company. We've got a Porsche in strife I'll come back to in a second. Then starting on the 5th row, Tom Gamble and Christopher Hauser. The 6th row is Thierry Vermeulen and Hugo de Wilde for Imperiale Racing. Next up, Lucas Legere and Louis Pret, ahead of Eddie Cheever and Ricardo Feller, with Dylan Pereira and Dennis Marshall on the next row. And Dennis Marshall's car may well have been the one we just saw in trouble. We'll go back and check. 10th row, Dan Harper and Jules Gounon a long way back, but he's ahead of Mauro Engel and Sandy Mitchell. Then it's Max Hoffer and Jeff Machiels. Row 13, Cesar Gazo and Gilles Stadsbader come next. Gilles Stadsbader, new to the championship, moving from Super Trofeo. The 14th row is Mathis Lismont and Stephen Palette, making his annual debut. Magnus Gustafsson and Paul Everard are on the 15th row. The 16th row, Salah Joric and another newcomer, Laurence Lequetia. And the back row, Ezequiel Perez Compact, sharing this week with Phil Keane and Marco Butti. And it is 97. It is the Dennis Marshall Porsche, which stopped, did it not, on track in qualifying last night when Dustin Blattner was at the wheel late in the session, and that car being pushed off the grid. So if it can start at all, it will have to start from the pit lane. But I rather fear that's not going to get into the race. So whatever the problem was that struck last night, I fear it has struck again. In the meantime, we are halfway around this formation lap. Still the drivers trying to get warmth into the rubber, ready to go racing. Aboard 007 then, Mathieu Drudi, winner of the championship last year with Ricardo Feller in the Audi. Very different car, this Aston new this year, still being developed. And Mathieu Drudi, a good man to have on board with his experience of the Audi to move that car forward.
Well, unquestionably, if you're looking for, you might call it a dark horse to get onto the podium, I would say Mathieu Drudi in the Aston Martin has got to be one of my choices, and Nicholas Bout behind the wheel for the second stint. And Valentino looking very cool, relaxed, and all his hopes are pinned on what Maxime Martin will do in the 46 BMW, starting on pole position as they come down to the tail end of the back straight into turns 12, 13, and 14, and then the quick run back through 15. And then the final turn, turn 16.
Italian-American Eddie Cheevy, you were on board with a minute ago for Sky Tempesta Racing. That car in the Bronze Cup, making a seasonal debut. Wasn't at Brands, and that car damaged as well at Silverstone in British GT practice, so it's good that they're here. But at the front of the grid, this run towards turn 1 is about to take up attention. The cars now swinging their way up from turn 15, you're looking back at Lucas Legere's car there from Thierry Vermeulen's Ferrari. They will slot themselves into position in a moment in that 2x2 Noah's Ark formation. The leading car will bail for the pit lane. Maxime Martin in the BMW that kind of towers over the Ferrari alongside. No question as to who those fans are supporting. The car on pole position then in the hands of Maxime Martin, gets ready to accelerate clear once they come out of turn 16. If the race director is happy, the lights will change, and race 3 of the year in Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup, is go. Good start by Martin. Ben Green moves across in defence for Drudi. Marvin Dean to the Porsche to the outside line. To the inside, the orange BM of Callan Williams. Dries Van Thor's going to get ahead of Marvin Dees, has his elbows out, doesn't he? Up into second place, ahead of Green, ahead of Drudi, and Van Thor 5th.
The opportunist by Ben Green, but he saw the opportunity, made it stick, got up now back to the position he started in, because certainly it was all a bit tight going through turns 1, 2, and 3. There's the view, and look how much track limit abuse we're seeing in the opening lap. And this only from this drone shot can I fully appreciate what the stewards are having to deal with. So many cars running so wide, coming out of turn 6, all the halfway up, almost back on the beach.
Indeed so, but Maxime Martin ahead of Marvin Dean. So it is BMW from Porsche, the Dynamique GT team, which we didn't see at Brands, running that car of Dean's, who is a very, very quick Porsche peddler, make no mistake about it. Ben Green 3rd, and in 4th place now is Dries Van Thor. So he's chipping forward as you look further down the order. 991 is Dan Harper in the Century Red BMW on the outside line. Gets forced out a little bit wide as the cars now accelerate their way down towards turn 11. Maxime Martin leads the way, being squeezed onto the grass there in the background. That was possibly Dan Harper, in fact. But he got away with that as the cars accelerate their way towards turn 12 for the first time. Wide goes Deans, Green behind him, but Van Thor 4th, looking really menacing.
So the Porsche and the BMW coming through turn 14, but Maxime Martin has just got that margin of gap between himself and the Porsche. The Porsche under pressure from the Ferrari. Now the 32 Dries Van Thor having made up 2 positions. And that opening lap and focusing onto the rear, Ben Green in the Ferrari. That will not be an easy overtake.
Mario Engel getting his elbows out. Look as he comes across the line. The yellow Mercedes AMG getting involved in a big, big battle. Thierry Vermeulen then on the inside line, moving himself back ahead of Tom Gamble. So Martin leads, but he's not really clearing off into the distance. Marvin Dienst only 0.6 of a second back when they came over the line. Back on board with the drone up towards turn 4. That's Mathieu Drudi that you're looking at the back of, who's dropped away a little bit from Van Thor, who's going after Ben Green, who's going after Marvin Dienst.
Everybody's going after everybody else. Is what you expect in a race on a 2.6 mile circuit, 4 kilometres around.
But Martin is not escaping up the road, is he? He's not getting away.
He did pull out on the opening lap a bigger gap than he's got now, having just gone into turn 8. And the Sky Tempesta trying to go around the outside of the BMW, and is he going to get hung out to dry? Well, he'll just about get back onto the track before they now enter turn 9. He's got the high ground on the entry, but whether he'll lose it on the exit is just a question of, can Eddie Cheever hold it? Yes, I think he's done.
Yeah, Dan Harper in the mix with him, having been squeezed onto the dirt on that opening lap. Let's have a replay of the start, John.
Yeah, so Maxime Martin, clear run down, but there's Dienst in the Porsche who gets alongside Ben Green as they go into turn 2. That gives them the position, but also Matteo Drudi was all over the back of the two of them. So it was slightly losing out for Ben Green, and Drudi was just waiting for the opportunity, but it didn't materialize.
So Maxime Martin had an advantage, and Marvin Dienst being able to defend that second place. Matthew Drudi going one side and then the other. Something flew from a car.
Bit of bodywork, bit of carbon fibre flicked off. So 3 into 1 doesn't really go up into turn 5, but the field is really beginning to compress, and the gap between first and second, well, it was 0.6 of a second when they went across the start-finish line. So it's probably in and around that same margin, but everybody's running at the pace of the leader.
The Mercedes are still struggling to make progress. Engel 18th, Gounon 19th. And they are the best placed Mercedes AMGs in the race. Callan Williams has done the fastest lap. He in the orange BMW leads silver and is 7th at the moment. The leading gold is Leggeret, the leading leading bronze, if you like, in Marvin Dienst. So he leads bronze by being 2nd overall. And Martin's advantage still only 0.6 of a second. And now look, the Porsche is getting away from the Ferrari of Green.
Yeah, but watch Dries van Voort. He's been working over Ben Green the last couple of corners, trying to work away to get himself from here down. Remember at Brands Hatch, the BMWs were amongst the quickest cars down the straight. So we're waiting to see whether that's carried through from Brands here to Misano. It doesn't appear that Dries van Voort's got any more advantage here than he would have maybe wished to have.
Matthew Drudi under attack from Christopher Hauser in 6th place in the Audi. You can never rule out Christopher Hauser with all of his experience in these cars. Race leaders then wriggle their way up towards turn 15. Martin still clear. The Dennis Marshall Porsche, by the way, has not started the race. And there, Dries van Voort turning his way up towards the end of the lap, still chasing after Green. Let's see what the lead gap is. Marvin Dienst's car is inevitably going to fall back in the second stint when the bronze-graded Philip Saga gets behind the wheel. But right now, he's 0.6 of a second back from Martin. Look how much curb they all use on the outside of the road into turn 1.
I mean, every corner, the curbs are being either totally dismissed or partially. But anyway, Marvin Dienst has kept that 0.6 of a second gap to Maxime Martin, and Ben Green has got his mirrors full of Dries van Voort, who's only 0.4 of a second behind.
So there goes the Aston. Matthew Drudi accelerates his way now along the straight down towards turn 8. There's a little bit of a kink in that. You're on board with Drudi now as he arrives at turn 8. Heavy braking zone. That's Van Voort just up the road ahead. Grabs a gear up towards turn 9, the little kink that in turn takes you into the tighter turn 10, into the corners now.
Again, just watching ahead for the BMW. Van Voort trying to take a different exit out of turn 10 to see if he can get a position as they come down through this kink turn 11, then into turns 12, 13, 14. And if you haven't got it done by the time you go through the kink at 11, then it's very difficult to get it done elsewhere. Dan Harper absolutely all over the racetrack.
Being a bit frustrated, stuck behind Lucas Leggeret. He's on the outside line. This is a bronze against the gold leader, but Leggeret hangs onto the place. Harper tries to get the undercut on the inside line, almost committed to it, but Leggeret's got sharp elbows, sticks them out, and the BM can't find a way through, and in turn, Harper is being attacked by another of the Bronze Cup cars, that of Eddie Cheever here.
Well, if you're focused so much on what you're doing directly ahead of you, you do forget occasionally that somebody's on your tail, and you give them the opportunity. They'll slip the nose of the car down, either the outside or around the inside.
Right, the race leading gap is coming down. It's 4/10. Dienst has just done the fastest lap of the race. Salo Jolic's Ferrari is last at the moment, so he's struggling a little bit with this car as you look at the Green Van Voort battle. And Marvin Dienst, as you can see, is even nearer to the back of Maxime Martin. Now, where's the change going to come? Is it for the lead or third, first of all? Big flash of the lights from Van Voort to try to unsettle, try to distract Ben Green, but Van Voort doesn't commit to an opportunity on the inside line there. Marvin Dienst drops back a length or so, maybe, coming out of turn 8 up towards us now. But Dienst, the quickest man on track thus far.
I mean, for Dries van Voort to think about a move on the Ferrari, it's just too much high risk at this point. He knows that when it comes to the pit stop window, that the WRT team will probably, as historically they did at Brands Hatch, outperform the Emil Frey team in that pit lane stop. So he is impatient. He wants to get through, but he knows that the pit stop window will be between 35 and 25 minutes into this race. Again, almost gets close enough to get the nose alongside, but not quite close enough to make it stick.
But what it can do, maybe, by keep doing that, is distract Ben Green enough to force half a mistake out of him. Vincent Voss with his trademark flat cap looking on. Tony used to race at Wilton Park in his early Formula 4 days. Coming then now up towards the timing line is Martin, Dienst, Green, Vanthor. That leading quartet covered by 1.6 seconds last time around. And Dries Vanthor getting nearer to the back of Green. In fact, Vanthor has just done the fastest lap of the race. He wants that place because then he can go after Dienst and might be even further up after the pit stops.
Watch up at the turn 4. He's not going to get it done. You see that the Ferrari just took the tight inside line, denying Dries Vanthor that opportunity. So Vanthor had to take the longer way around, just be a little bit more patient. But the pace in the BMW now, and we're on to lap 6, clearly is marginally better than that of Ben Green's Ferrari. And Dries Vanthor up the inside into turn 8. Green's going to go the long way around the outside, but again, this thing about how far do you want to go to the outside to retain your position, but he looks like he may well have done so. Dries Vanthor will hopefully swoop around the outside. No, he's not. Good driving by both drivers. No contact. You couldn't get closer than they're racing.
The road came back to Ben Green, didn't it? So the outside line for 8 was the inside for 9, and then he was able to make sure that Vanthor couldn't get the undercut coming off the corner. So it was a good effort by Vanthor. He had to try something, and it almost worked. Now he's going to go again. Not at 11, he's not, but he's close, 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 heading up towards 12, 13. The next sequence of tightening right-handers. Look what's happened, though, while they've squabbled. So Dienst has gone away up the road. Pressure is off him, but yes, certainly now Vanthor is quicker than Green, but he just can't find a way by.
He found the way by, but momentarily he got into the turn 8, but of course then Green was able to hold the outside line and carry speed, and then get to turn 9 and be on the inside. And unfortunately for Dries Vanthor, it had him slightly hung out on the outside of turn 10, couldn't get the power on as quickly as the Ferrari was able to do, and couldn't then come back down at the end of the back straight. And
what that's all done as well is bring Mathieu Drudy a little bit nearer to the back of the red BMW. You can see the speeds increasing of both cars. Vanthor has a cheeky look on the inside into turn 4, but he's not close enough to make a move there. Back onto the loud pedal into turn 6 here. So we are on lap 7, and Vanthor still looking to try to surprise Ben Green, who, as far as turn 8 is concerned, will be wise to any challenge this time.
Well, if there is a challenge, we've seen that Ben Green is prepared to go the long way around the outside, and as long as he doesn't run wide at the exit, he can more or less hold position, and that gives him again the benefit coming up here into turn 9 of being on the inside, and he can hug the inside of turn 9 and turn 10 and let Dries Vanthor do whatever he wants to do. I've got the room. Yeah. You can fight for whatever you want.
More and more track limit warnings are coming, but we're not yet into the penalty realms, as look at this queue of cars now for 5th, where Drudy, Haase, Williams, Muller, Vermeulen and Gamble round out the top 10. There is the Sven Muller Porsche, and the Rutronic car at the moment being humbled by Marvin Dienst's entry, isn't it now? Drudy under attack from Haase, Aston Martin versus Audi as they turn their way up towards 15, so the top 2 have paired off, 3rd and 4th have paired off, and Vanthor getting a bit more frustrated now that he's stuck behind Ben Green, who, in fairness, is doing the job properly in defending.
Absolutely, but Christopher Haase on the tail of the Aston Martin in 5th position, and we saw the Aston at Brands Hatch after maybe 10, 15 laps, maybe it began to fade, maybe the way the tyre was working, and I would not be surprised to see Christopher Haase putting a challenge on the Aston Martin before we get to the opening pit stop.
So there's Marvin Dienst, who's not really, with respect, in the race for the overall win. That is a Bronze Cup car, which will fall away with the slower driver on board, but a class win is what they're after, and so you can anticipate that car to be up at the front in the first stint, but not necessarily the second. Callan Williams in the BMW in the meantime leads silver, and he's on the back of Christopher Haase's Audi, which distracts him and takes him slightly away from the rear of Mathieu Drudy's Aston. So these rather elasticated battles continue. Now look, as Green and Vanthor have stopped squabbling for a lap, they've caught Dienst and pulled away from Drudy.
Yes, and Martin's got a nice second and a bit advantage over the second place Porsche. That was down to under half a second. There you can see the gap. Look, between Vanthor and Green side by side. And can he make it stick? Oh. He's not going to be able to make it stick. He's going to be hung out all the way around. Ben Green's doing a sterling job of defence.
Contact between the two, though. Ben Green's mirror was dislodged. You saw that. So Vanthor getting more and more frustrated. Vincent Voss getting frustrated as well, maybe. But you're right, Ben Green is doing a really good job of defending. He might be new to Fanatec GT, but he's not going to say to these people with bigger reputations like triple champion Vanthor, do come on by. He is making that Ferrari as wide as he possibly can. He's entitled so to do, and Vanthor's frustration is increasing.
And there's the battle for 5th, 6th, and without a puncture.
I think it is. 99 Audi. That is the Ricardo Feller car limping back to the pit lane. So Ricardo Feller.
The body damage has been a big contact.
He's hit somebody or something, hasn't he? Feller for the pits. Yeah, that tire's not, the wheel's not going round, never mind a puncture. Right, so that'll pit. And in the meantime, there is 32 Dries Vanthor. Car 99 slow on track from turn 13, so it's relatively close to the pit lane, but it's going to drop off the lead lap. Big, big disappointment for one of last year's reigning champions. Mathieu Drudy, the other, with Ricardo Feller. Drudy is running 5th. Feller is heading for the pit lane. And Lucas Legeret is in the pits as well. So I wonder if those two got together.
Oh, got to catch your breath up to turn 9 and 10. Ben Green, Dries Vanthor. There you see the gains that Dries Vanthor has made over the best lap and the last lap. So it's fractions of a second again. Watch that battle for 3rd place. Dries Vanthor trying to work the long way around. Coming down to turn 11. He's got enough momentum this time. Can he force his way ahead? But Ben Green is not conceding a fraction all the way down through these sequence of corners into turn 12. Now a chance for Dries Vanthor. Oh, back end of the fray. Was that a contact again? And there he's side by side, hip and shoulder, and that's getting come on, Vincent Voss, he's loving it in the WRT pits.
But that might get looked at because it was a bit fractious between the two, and I would have thought the amount of rubbing that went on that the stewards might be alerted to that. If you were the Emil Frey racing team, you'd already be making your feelings felt to race control. Let's have another look. Ben Green on the inside, they'd already rubbed once, then there was contact, then there was another bit of contact.
The only positive you can say is that both these are pro cars, pro drivers behind the wheel. If that had been a bronze, silver or gold driver, I think there would have been a problem for the 32 BMW.
Right, let's see. For the moment, he's ahead. Was it not at Hockenheim a couple of years ago that there was a rather harsh move that was penalised post-race that involved the Vanthor, then Audi? Well, here he's up to 3rd and now released. Will go off to Deans. Just going back a point, I mentioned that Lucas Legeret was in the pit lane as well as Ricardo Feller. Legeret, don't forget, was leading gold. So we now have a new gold cup leader, which is Max Hofer, number 6 Audi, 21st overall. But whatever the incident has been for Treble 1 and 99, it's given us a new gold cup leader.
Well, from what we saw on the left front of Ricardo Feller's Audi, that was contact with another car. The Feller car contacted, and we're assuming that it was Lucas Legeret's Audi. It wasn't as if Legeret reversed into Ricardo Feller. I think that's a certainty.
I think we're safe to say that. Yes, absolutely. Right, so Dienst is ahead of Kujala and Harper in bronze. Williams is ahead of Gazot and Machiels in silver. And there, going through, is the number 85 Lamborghini, Hugo de Wilde at the wheel of it. Single-seater racer turned prototype racer, Amaro Engel trying to get up the inside, but out wide goes the Lamborghini, keeps the inside line for the next corner. Engel swoops around the outside. Finally, he's done it. He's gone by, but that's only for 14th place. Engel still with work to do.
Still work to be done, but it's going in the right direction finally. Yeah. Amaro Engel's got some space to work with what he's got. He's found tire temperature. He's got the car working the way a Mercedes-AMG GT3 works around this racetrack. And now it's all looking forward. And he's got Pereira next up in the 66 Audi, and then Dan Harper running at the top 12.
Lead gap, 1.5 seconds as Maxime Martin continues to pull away a little bit. The contact between Ben Green and Dries Vanthor has been noted by race control. So Dries is not out of the woods yet, but he is pushing on. He is getting closer now to Dienst, and he's lapping faster than the 2 leading cars as through goes Hugo de Wilde. And there behind is Jules Gounod, now 16th, eager to make progress as well.
It's very difficult to say Jules Gounod 16th, much as it is to think about where Amaro Engel is likewise. He's up in 14th, 2 places ahead. And that actually is 14th is the lead Mercedes.
Yeah. Sobering, isn't it? As you look at the BMWs and the Audi and Aston Martin having a much better day. We know a technical problem unspecified has kept 97 out of the race from Rutronic. 96, the sister car, Sven Muller at the wheel, is 8th and trying to close on this little gaggle of cars up the road. Emil Frey, 132 BMW to give back the place, but they've not been instructed so to do. Vanthor reckons he's earned that, and he's going to keep hold of it, and on that last lap did an absolute best third sector.
Yes, I mean, Van Thor at this phase is correct to do what he did. For me, that was hard racing, but we'd seen Van Thor push all the way for the previous 3 or more laps, and there was an opportunity, and I mean, Ben Green fought all the way, and there was ultimately, it was inevitable in turn 14, the entry, there was going to be a contact, and so we have to wait and see what the decision from the authorities may be.
I know the pace is good, but we have no risk. If the move is on, we do it, but no risk. Pace is good.
That's the radio traffic to Callum Williams, who is leading in silver, 7th overall. So no risk means we want a class win. There's no need to go further up the order. Just stay ahead of the class opposition. And 7th is where the BMW is, and the opposition is 20th overall. So Callum Williams just has to keep out of trouble. Here, look, though, you've got Christopher Haase all over the back of Mathieu Drudi. And the Aston Martin stays ahead of the Audi. Haase takes a tighter line, but he can't really get up the inside as they dive towards turn 14. Williams riding shotgun to all of this. Wants to gain places, but he's being told by the team, no risk, keep out of trouble.
Well, I mean, keeping out of trouble doesn't mean you can't enjoy yourself, because he's in a battle, a 3-way battle, and he can see an overall gain between the Audi and the Aston Martin. Should they get together, then he's going to see himself elevated by 2 positions. A freebie, if you like, for Callum Williams.
Dries Van Thor, having got past Ben Green, has pulled away by 2.4 seconds very quickly. Dylan Pereira is the fastest through turn 11, with Dan Harper matching him and Callum Williams likewise. And then you've got Ricardo Feller now out of the race, and Max Hofer just 1 kilometre an hour slower. But Dylan Pereira amongst the bravest, with Dan Harper and Callum Williams all tied on 241 kilometres an hour. Van Thor then, last time through, fastest lap of the race. He is certainly catching the top 2 now.
Yes, and he's pulled away quickly and cleanly from Ben Green. And there's focus is now that 1 second between himself and Marvin Dienst, who 2.1 seconds behind the lead, Maxime Martin. At one point we thought that the Porsche may take that lead away from BMW. There is our leader, there is the Porsche behind. And look what's coming into the mirrors, there it is. Dries Van Thor. Pit lane window will open in 5 minutes, and it'll be about strategy for which team's going to bring their team car in first. And will they keep Maxime Martin out? He's got clear road, he's never really been seriously threatened. And I mean, the pace that we've seen from Dries Van Thor, there's just the sheer energy he's putting into driving. I think they're going to keep him out as long as possible.
Over the line goes Martin then, and behind is Marvin Dienst, who really has been reeled in by Van Thor, hasn't he? The gap was a second last time, and this time it is 0.4 of a second. So Van Thor should be up to second place by the time the pit window opens, I would propose. But then we need to see what he can do about Martin. And the second stint, Wirtz versus Rossi, will be really interesting as you head down to turn 4 with the drone. Ben Green dropping back in 4th place, possibly because the car picked up a little bit of damage, but he's keeping Drudi, Haase, Williams, Muller, Vermeulen and Gamble at bay to round out the top 10.
I do love that drone shot over turns 4, 5 and 6. And I mean, track limits, you might as well just give up, because halfway around the circuit we're seeing cars, I mean, 4 wheels entirely off, going through turn 6. They're so far on the inside of the corner, you might as well realign that corner and just let them do what they're doing.
Right, the incident between Van Thor and Ben Green is under investigation, and that was the Gold Cup leader. So our second gold leader in strife being turned around, Max Hofer. It's one of the Ferraris that was behind, was it not? Was that Jeff Machiel's car, conceivably? Right, Valentino Rossi gets ready to go. But right now, we have the earlier incident involving number 32 BMW being looked at by race control. So the story is not over. All Van Thor can do, all Charles Wirtz can do, is keep on pushing. Down to race control to decide if there's anything to do.
The only thing WRT can do to assist Dries Van Thor is actually get that car in early, do one of their magical pit stops. Charles Wirtz gets back behind the wheel. That gets them away from this battle with the Porsche, and they're losing ground overall to the lead car, their sister team car. They really would like to have those 2 cars in a better position so they can lock out first and second when the checkered flag comes out.
Dienst, I would imagine, will stay out a long time in that Porsche, given that he's quicker than Philipp Zager, who is his co-driver. Dan Harper is up to second in the Bronze Cup now. He's just got ahead of Patrick Kujala. So as they came over the line, we've had that change. There is a track limit penalty heading in the direction of Sally Joric and Charlie Eastwood on the pit stops, and a 5-second track limit penalty heading to number 18, Marco Butti's Lamborghini, the GSM car that he shares with Pietro Deliguanti.
So speed at turn 11, still that 241 kilometers. Audi, BMW, BMW, Audi, Audi, all within 1 kilometer of each other. Top 6 cars.
So there's Matthew Drudy hanging on to that 5th place. And behind, Haas never really been able to threaten properly. Callum Williams banking the class lead. Sven Muller behind him in the Retronic Porsche. And now Vanthor goes for second. Goes to the outside, fades to the inside up towards turn 12. Marvin Dienst puts out his elbows and makes sure that the Porsche ain't going to be passed there. A little puff of smoke, though, as he comes out of 13 up to 14, the hairpin. And Marvin Dienst hangs on to the place, albeit Vanthor's car has got great pace.
It has great pace, but that pace is not being able to be unleashed as long as he's running behind Marvin Dienst in the battle for 2nd and 3rd positions.
So the race leader, Maxime Martin, in the distance, goes across the line. Last lap through, the gap was 2.6 seconds, a minute and a half just over before the pit window opens. The lead gap is 2.7, and first to third is 3.1 seconds. So Martin trying to stretch the advantage.
And 2.7 seconds is a comfortable gap.
Let's just eavesdrop on the 46 BMW's radio for a
Pull-ups
moment.
before the pit stop, pull-ups.
So 4 laps to pit for 46. Maxime Martin then will take the car into the window and give way to Valentino Rossi. Marvin Dienst, incidentally, has just done the absolute best first sector time, so being spurred on by Vanthor. He's on the attack there. Number 9, Jules Gounon, trying to get past Hugo de Wilde, and he's got Sandy Mitchell, the British GT champion, and indeed a race winner in this year's championship, tucked up behind him. The Mercedes just don't look at the races, do they, as they struggle with the tyres today?
There's been a story of qualifying, and they've not been able to make it work, albeit Lucas Hauer did a sterling job in qualifying too. So look at, again, how close. Oh, there was. Oh, well, you know. Did we catch that on camera? Yes, we did.
Jules Gounon trying to get past Hugo de Wilde. Mauro Engel having found a way through and pulled away there. Look, in the Winwood racing car, but for the Boots and VDS entry, of course, Boots and VDS new to running Mercedes as well. Neither of these teams having the same enjoyment and success yet that Acodis ASP had. That was always the benchmark Mercedes team. The pit window has just opened. So the pit window is now open. Martin, Dienst and Vanthor have gone through. They're onto another lap bench if they so desire. In a few cases, though, you've got your quicker driver in at the moment, so you might as well use him. And look how wide Gounon goes.
Yeah, and he's really been struggling all the way through. Now, clearly, if he could get ahead of de Wilde, then maybe something could happen. Thierry Vermeulen is the first of the stoppers in his 69 Emile Frey Ferrari. So he's in the pit lane there. Oh, and up the inside, he's making it work, he has. And that almost, well, again, he overran as a consequence. Mervyn Dienst didn't even bother to try to shut the door. He recognized that Vanthor was going to run very wide on the exit with the very tight line going into turn 8.
Let's listen to the leaders. Let's listen.
Okay, Maxime, post this lap, tire change to rally, confirm.
So what was 4 laps is now box this lap, pit this lap. So Maxime Martin will be coming in a little bit earlier than anticipated. He'll be coming in this time, and that gives just over 33 minutes to Valentino Rossi. But a great battle for second place. Dienst back ahead.
Yes, I mean, Vanthor, just threw it down the inside into turn 8. The consequence was he couldn't get the car slowed down to make the turn. Ran wide, and that allowed the Porsche then to make the undercut and get ahead. So, I mean, Dries Vanthor has driven the wheels off his BMW. He's done everything possible to make ground. Sometimes you just try too hard, and there we are. Coming down pit straight, running now in first and second place, as there was our former race leader, coming down into the WRT box.
So Porsche leads here at Misano. Marvin Dienst 0.371 of a second ahead of Vanthor as they cross the line. In comes Maxime Martin. And no doubt to great encouragement, in will leap Valentino Rossi, the WRT BMW at pit out. So as soon as Valle gets into the car, he can just accelerate away down the pit road, and the clock is running on this pit stop.
The Vermeulen Ferrari's pit stop, Giacomo Altre behind the wheel now, was 1 minute and 6.3 seconds. That's the benchmark from Emile Frey. Let's see what WRT have done. Rossi behind the wheel, rolling all the way down the pit lane. It's a long pit lane exit here in Misano, and you have to creep down it. You can see how slowly Rossi is. I mean, he's doing this because that's the mandatory 50-kilometer speed limit in the pit lane until you get to the demarcation line as our race leaders come onto the back straight.
And Vanthor wants to get past Dienst to be ahead when he pits, as 63 seconds the pit stop for Rossi, 63.6, better than that Ferrari John was talking about. And again, Vanthor has a cheeky look on the inside. Marvin Dienst with one mission, and that is to lead the race, go as fast as he can for his co-driver Philip Zaga. So Vanthor is still stuck. Now, let's see as they come out of turn 15 on this lap, the next left, if either of these two is going to bail for the pit lane. Who will box first? It's going to be the BMW. In comes Vanthor.
And he had a big sudden snap of oversteer coming through turn 15. Had to make a correction. He was pushing so hard to try and make it as quickly as possible into the pit lane. And the Lamborghini just creeps out. And you can see Vanthor not happy about it, because that has maybe a slight effect on his speed, 50 kilometers per hour. And he could do nothing about the Lamborghini directly ahead of him.
So down the pit lane they come. And Dries Vanthor then to give way to Charles Weerts. Triple Sprint Cup champions. Now, Valentino Rossi is the race leader. Giacomo Altuve is doing absolute best in the sectors. Sector 1 having just taken over number 69 Ferrari. So the two mechanics per corner changing the tyres. The clock is ticking. And is Rossi going to keep the lead that Maxime Martin built up? The answer should be yes, because the 32 BMW was yet to be released, and then it's got that slow drive down the pit lane. Right, 32 is moving. There it is, look, at the right-hand side of the screen, but it's not at race speed, and 46 is about to come into turn 1 there, so it retakes the lead. So 46, Valentino Rossi, is ahead after the stops.
The white line is now, so Weerts is going to get on it, but the good news is he is directly behind the sister car, the 46. So if Weerts has got any more pace than we saw from Dries Vanthor, it's going to be a battle between these two WRT BMWs for not just for honours, but which of the two will make it to the winner's podium.
Valentino Rossi's pit stop time, 63.6 seconds. Charles Weerts' pit stop time, 63.6 seconds. Identical to the 10th, which is what the pit stops are measured to. So the two WRT BMWs have the same pit stop time, and therefore nobody gains, nobody loses on the stops.
But it looks as if the gap between the lead car and the 32, maybe it's just an illusion. Remember, this car was just under 3 seconds ahead of the Porsche in second place.
Yeah.
We need to see when they complete this flying lap. And we've got Charles Weerts up to race speed, just what that gap is between first and second.
Well, there's the on-the-road leader, Marvin Dienst, then, in the dynamic Porsche, using all the curve. And, of course, now that he doesn't have cars around him, he can just press on. He's coming up to the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes AMG. Phil Keen at the wheel of it. So Ezequiel Perez Compact started, and Phil Keen takes it over. He's used to the car from British GT, even if not the team. Phil, who is one of the two drivers with the record number of British GT wins to his credit. There, down in 24th place, Aurelien Panis. That going through is Reese Barr. Callum Williams there, yet to stop. So that's the car that is second on the racetrack. Callum Williams yet to give way to Sam Dahan.
But critically, that car leading its category by a country mile. The next car up is in 22nd position in the silver category.
Which is Dante Raponge, who's taken over from Laurens Lequertois, having had a grid drop, Dante Raponge. So they're going through 21. That is now the gold leading car, and Mathis Lismont, but he's yet to stop. So it is the Gold Cup lead, but it might not be a real one, if you see what I mean, because others have pitted and dropped down the order. Need to see where that car blends back in once James Jakes takes it over in the second stint.
Well, the gap between Rossi and Weerts when they came across the line on the first flying lap for the 46, for the 32, I beg your pardon, it was 3.1 seconds, which was about roughly where they were when both cars respectively made their pit stops.
Dan Harper's BMW, which is still with Dan at the wheel there, comes towards us. Number 12, that has stopped. Dante Raponge at the wheel now, having taken over from newcomer Laurens Lequertois. So you've got a real shuffle of the order, and of course you've got cars rejoining in traffic, which rather scuppers the pace and the plan to a degree. So there, The battle pack comes down towards turn 8. Marvin Dienst staying out. He's 10 seconds to the good. He's lapping in the 133s, whereas Rossi and Weerts are in the 132s. So the BMWs have got better pace at the moment anyway, on fresher tyres.
And Marvin Dienst is going to come in at the end of this lap, otherwise he's going to run out of time. In my view, he's got right now 27. There's about a minute and 40 seconds remaining.
Yeah.
And by the time he completes this lap and then would do another one, I think he would be out of time. So expect the Porsche to come in. Well, they're running up pretty fine, I suggest.
Yeah, they've got 2 minutes and 26 seconds. They can just about squeeze one more lap out of this. And it makes sense to have Dienst in the car for as long as you can, because he's the quicker of the two drivers. So through he goes. But the downside is that the tyres are losing their edge. So he's lapping in the 133s, whereas the BMWs are in the 132s. Dienst's real battle, though, of course, is in bronze. And he's ahead in the class.
Yeah, so the next up will be Dan Harper, but he's considerable way. There it is, coming into turn 1. So Dan Harper is actually, what, behind, and overall behind Dienst is 17.3 seconds.
Bit of damage on 26 Audi there, which is the Ivan Klimenko Santalot car, and it doesn't want to turn. It's picked up some left front damage by the look of it. That car is a long way down at the moment, in 25th place after a pit stop to do the driver change, but all of a sudden it just looks nervous on the racetrack, doesn't it?
Just get another glimpse of it. We saw it coming there. So the contact may have occurred with the left front, right rear of the Ferrari Audi, so that might have been the cause. And I think there's a bit of body work. Actually, the tyre looks like is it deflating? I think the left front on the Audi is deflating. It's not,
right.
It's not a straight cut. Hasn't gone down instantly, but it is gradually, and ultimately he's going to come in at the end of the lap. He can't continue with it like that.
Over the line there goes Konsta Lapalainen, and then 88, which is now Lorenzo Ferrari, and Patrick Niederhauser is on the back. So Lapalainen has fallen into the clutches of the Audi. Ben Green was ahead. Now, where's the number 7 Aston Martin gone to out of all of that? Nicolas Bart seems to have fallen quite a long way out of the pack.
He's down in 20th position. I don't know what their pit stop was like. 122. Well, that's the reason why it's fallen back. As a very poor pit stop from the Aston team.
Very slow indeed. So giving away about 18, 19 seconds to the opposition. So number 14, Konsta Lapalainen, he had a slow pit stop as well, a 1 minute 15. So 1 minute 15 as against 1 minute 3. As at Brands, not a great stop, but that is Marvin Dienst in to give way to Philip Zaga. Dan Harper is in, Callum Williams is in, Patrick Kuyler is in, Dylan Pereira is in, Stefan Denouel is in to take over from Stephen Palette. So now the shuffle comes, but it's going to be a BMW 1-2, isn't it? Rossi versus Weerts, who has done the fastest lap of the race. Philip Zaga gets away, and although the Porsche led when it came in, ignore it from the lead battle, because that is a Bronze Cup car with the bronze driver in it. That now has the target of winning its class. So the real focus is on the two WRT BMWs for the race win.
And in fairness, both drivers, the difference between the best laps of the 46 and the 32 is very, very small, but the gap eventually is beginning to work its way down to 2 seconds as they went on to what will be the 23rd lap.
Down the pit road goes Sam de Haan, goes Philip Zaga. That's your lead battle. 24 minutes of the race to go, and the gap between these two is 2 seconds, and Weerts lapping quicker. So on paper, you would say that Weerts is going to take the lead and win the race. But this is Valentino Rossi on his home circuit. He might make that car very wide.
Which paper have you been reading? I don't see it being a gimme. Give me.
Well, right now, Weerts fastest lap of the race, lapping quicker. Let's see. He's closing onto the back of Rossi. There you can see how the last few laps have looked after they took over. Valentino will be mindful of who is bearing down on him, but the cars are evenly matched. It's going to be fascinating for 24 minutes now.
Yes, I mean, it's a long way to go before the checkered flag comes out, and if Weerts continues his progress and catching, then it's a team decision in my view, because if the team feel it's more beneficial to let the 32 car win from a points perspective, or to keep Valentino, let him take victory here, repeat what he did 1 year ago, it's down to what's going to happen on the pit lane in my view.
Remember that number 32 BMW there, the red and white car in second place, 6th on the grid, so it has pushed on. We've not heard any more about that contact with Ben Green, so it might still be being looked at, but we've not yet had any news that a penalty is looming for 32, which could be the other element of this that saves Valentino Rossi. You never know. Last time through, the gap between the BMWs was from 2 seconds down to 1.7. Wirtz, again, the quicker of the two. He is catching, no doubt.
Oh, undoubtedly, you can see it basically, not quite by the corner, but certainly by the lap.
Yeah.
But I mean, Valentino Rossi, excellent job.
Let's just eavesdrop once more on the radio from 46 BMW.
Okay, it was track limit turn 3 this lap, track limit turn 3 outside, careful, careful.
Track limits at turn 3, which is the exit of that first S-bend, is what Valentino Rossi is being warned about as the car accelerates now down towards turn 11 in the first sector of this lap. Wirtz was quicker in the second sector. Wirtz was quicker. He's going to be with him within 2 or 3 laps now.
Yes.
But.
That's all I can say. Yes. I'm not going to add any other thoughts, opinions. It's a battle between the two team cars.
It is. And then we'll see how Valentino Rossi is able to defend. Number 14, Konsta Lapalainen, still pushing on behind as well in the Ferrari that was involved in that incident with Van Thor earlier on. And there the Porsche bottoming of Patrick Niederhauser and getting a little bit deep as Lucas Auer has arrived on the back of him. Once all the stops have cycled through at the end of this next lap, we should have an order, and it is Rossi from Wirtz, the top two. And then they are a long way ahead now of Giacomo Altway, who is 13 seconds back and not yet lapping as quickly. So he's a bit in no man's land. Fourth should now be Sam de Haan in number 30 BMW, still leading silver. Konsta Lapalainen fifth. So that car did fall down on the pit stops, and there is Auer in 8th behind Niederhauser 7th and Lorenzo Ferrari's Audi in 6th.
Well, remember that car started back on the 11th row of the grid. Maro Engel made good progress. Now it's in the hands of Lucas Auer. We see what he's capable of from what we watched qualifying last night. But again, behind the Porsche, that's a quick car. It's not going to be an easy pass. For you're going to see, I mean, Patrick Niederhauser is, well, you know, what can you say? Patrick Niederhauser, whether it's an Audi or a Porsche, no easy pass for Lucas Auer.
No, very true. Right, you're riding on board with Lucas Auer, who needs to try to wriggle his way through some traffic here if he can. Points for the championship. These are the championship leaders, Lucas Auer and Maro Engel. And we've got a car going deep into the corner up above, but that is one of the back-marking Audis. That, I think I'm right in saying, is the Ivan Klimenko Santalot car. Gets out of the way. But our 8th, that's Niederhauser in the Rutronic Racing Porsche ahead as they dive into turn 11. Now that fast kink, and then the road tightens ahead of you.
Just behind, you got the first of the two McLarens, Benjamin Gutter, who's been doing an outstanding job throughout the weekend. Again, a car that struggled in the cool conditions of last night. Now getting there in 9th position, running behind Lucas Auer, who we think might well be ready to put a move on. Wow, look at that. Oh, dear me, getting very Lorenzo Ferrari all over the place in the Audi.
And he's had so many of those, he's got a 5-second penalty to be applied post-race, and so also is number 72, Patrick Kuyel, and now Gabriel Rindoni. So penalties are coming from race control, and Niederhauser getting a warning about track limits as well behind. So look at this, the rather ragged Ferrari Audi, if you see what I mean, ahead of the Porsche, and Niederhauser goes to the inside line up towards turn 4. Ferrari defends, Auer is closing up as well, looking to try to buy into this.
Yeah, and Lucas Auer really just sitting back, watching these two having their little battle, and thinking, let them go at it, because maybe there's going to be an easy opportunity offered up if they get impatient and get too close together.
Lucas Auer, who's raced, of course, in the sprint format in DTM, as well as in these races, knows about sprint GT racing. That's the replay of Lorenzo Ferrari going way, way, way wide coming out of turn 15.
Yeah, the Porsche following, not quite so off track, but not very far away. So Lucas Auer right behind Niederhauser. Niederhauser looking for a way to find us, get that Porsche further up the field. Lorenzo Ferrari in 6th place. This is his Audi down the back straight.
Riccardo Fella, we understand, got involved with the 93 Sky Tempesta Ferrari early on. That's what caused his demise. That's being looked at as well, as you see Lucas Auer coming up towards the end of the lap. This is lap 27 that the race leaders are on. And he said, looking for wood to touch. No safety cars have been needed in this race, despite all the frantic fighting that's been going on. So towards the line goes Lorenzo Ferrari, 6th on the road. And behind is Patrick Niederhauser. Right, I just mentioned the Feller and Cheever incident. This is the replay of what happened on board with Eddie Cheever. And Ricardo Feller looks to go ahead. Lamborghini goes through first of all. And then there was contact between the two somewhere.
Yeah, up at turn 9, I think that might have been.
And that was the damage to the Audi. So that's being looked at. It's got the end of the incident, but you could see that both were delayed and the Audi effectively out of the race. But as that was a pro on a bronze, Ricardo Feller shoulders quite a lot of the responsibility.
I think all of it, to be honest. That's the rule. You know, if a bronze gets attacked by a pro, it's always going to be the pro that gets the penalty. But Lorenzo Ferrari doing a good job in balancing his position. But there's the gap between first and second, just under a second when they came across the line at the end of lap 26.
Call that a gap. It's come right down, hasn't it? 9/10 it was. So Valentino Rossi has got 17 minutes to go. Now, if you believe in people power, this is where it might well work. And there, Vincent Voss has a decision to make. You know, do I tell Charles to back off because it's going to look good on home soil? But no, it's every man for himself in this. They all want points for the championship. So as long as they don't get involved and delay each other or take each other off, it should be a fair fight to the end. Let's eavesdrop again on Valentino Rossi's radio. The team saying good job to him, we understand. So little gremlin, apologies, but the team saying you're doing well, and the margin is 0.7 of a second. So even though the gap is being reduced, Valentino Rossi is hanging on to the race lead, and he's got to do so for 16.5 minutes. And remember, these two cars so evenly matched, and we've seen it before. It doesn't matter which the brands, which the circuit, which the drivers. It's far easier to catch a car with the balanced performance than it is to overtake. The incident between Van Thor and Ben Green from the first stint, no further action.
2 thumbs up from me.
That's the third place car, Giacomo Altway in for Thierry Vermeulen. Now that car was 11th on the grid. They have done a really good job on the pit stops, and Lapalainen vaults up the, Altway vaults up the orders a third. That's fourth, Sam DeHaan, and Lapalainen is behind him fifth, having taken over from Ben Green. But Sam DeHaan leading the Silver Cup, having taken the car over from Callan Williams.
Yes, and he doesn't really have to worry about Lapalainen because different classes. So he's running, again, so far ahead of Aurelien Panis, who's in second place in the Silver Cup, all the way down in 18th position. And the gap actually, just going on the last lap between first and second, is actually fractionally extended over 1.1 seconds. Now, I don't think it's relevant to anything. I think it's just Charles Weerts is just pacing himself and maybe waiting for an opportunity. Well, we've got 15 minutes to go and then have one final challenge to the race leader.
Now that car led early on, Philip Zager at the wheel of the Marvin Deans Porsche. Have another look at the right front corner. That's what's missing from it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very nice bit of carbon fibre, and there's a price tag attached to the replacement, which probably I wouldn't want to see.
No, indeed. So the lizard green Porsche, kind of open wheeler now, so you can see what's going on the right front corner, comes down towards turn 1, but how that has parted company remains to be discovered.
Well, was that because there was contact in the body parts, the way they're held together and attached to each other is pretty impressive, but whatever that's been, it's I think a shock load has gone into it and basically just popped the fittings.
They're still leading the Gold Cup as over the line there goes the 25 Audi. Gilles Magnus at the wheel of it, taken over from Paul Everard. They're leading in gold. 93 Ferrari, Jonathan Hui is in bronze as you look at 72, Gabriel Ridoni, Sean Hudspeth behind him, and there, through goes Charles Weerts, getting himself up through the traffic, but for my money, Rossi has pulled away. The gap, 11 tenths last time through. This time as they go across the line, that gap is 2.2 seconds. Is that purely down to traffic?
I think maybe Rossi was fortunate to get through maybe more quickly than we've seen Charles Weerts. Again, where you hit the traffic on the lap is critical as much as the traffic is itself. So that gap will probably come back down, 13.75 minutes to go. But it looks to me as if the race order has been settled, and I'll leave it there.
So Charles Weerts presses on, not as quick in the first sector. Something flies from behind Valentino Rossi's car, either from his or something he's just run over. It tumbles down the track. But we're looking at these sector times, and all of a sudden, there is a disparity between the two BMWs. Sector 1, 3 tenths gained by Rossi, or lost by Weerts, depending on which car is the one of interesting pace.
I think for Weerts, the loss of time in this last lap, he had to overtake a back marker. That may have cost him those 4/10 or so of a second. Let's see what they do when they complete lap 30. If the gap's fastest lap, last lap, whichever, is still in the favour of Valentino in the race lead.
Lucas Auer there in 8th place, still chasing after Niederhauser, who in fairness has not got past Ferrari. He will do on corrected time. Remember that 88 Audi has a 5-second penalty to be applied for track limit offences, but right now on the racetrack, the yellow and blue Rotronic Porsche has not been able to find a way through. Behind them is then our 8th, Goerten 9th, and Maxi Goertz in for Gounon in 10th place.
Audi's always been a very useful car around Misano, and that's what we're seeing Lorenzo Ferrari do for the Audi brand. Patrick Niederhauser just has tried, as we've seen throughout the race, everybody's been trying so hard all around the circuit, but just can't get enough pace at any one particular point to make it stick.
Through the traffic goes Gilles Magnus, gets himself up on the inside there of 72. Gabriel Rindoni moves himself ahead, so Rindoni losing 18th spot now. Sean Hudspeth's already gone by, and I think also, yes, Rob Collard in 78 will be looking for a way to get through pretty swiftly as well. 57 now, that's got Reece Barr at the wheel of it, former Mini Challenge racer, as the cars turn their way up around turn 14. So a big queue, as there is here still, for 6th place. Ferrari ahead of Niederhauser, ahead of Auer, or if you prefer, Audi ahead of Porsche, ahead of Mercedes AMG.
Just for interest, on the last lap, Rossi, Weerts, virtually identical to within, what, 3 thousandths or so of a second.
You're on board with Auer, that's Niederhauser ahead. We're on lap 31, we've got 11 minutes to go. Ferrari under attack with the Audi. Niederhauser again tightens the line coming off turn 10, but he just can't get the power down of that Porsche. Interesting how the Rotronic car has struggled, whereas the dynamic car of Dienst has looked really racing.
Just how each car team approach their day's work. Anyway, Patrick Niederhauser's tried the left, the right, the middle, and Lucas Auer just again unable to do much about it. Whether he could be quicker overall in a lap, but he hasn't got the opportunity to illustrate it, and is sitting back, running in 8th position, and Benjamin Goerten now 3/4 of a second behind that Mercedes.
So to the line they come once more, and over the timing line now goes Lorenzo Ferrari, with Niederhauser under attack. Lucas Auer tries to go all the way around the outside at 1, the inside for 2. They rub out side by side. The Mercedes goes ahead. Great bit of driving by Auer.
Absolutely. I mean, that was a late break all the way down into turn 1 and ran the long way around the outside of 1 and then put himself in the pound seat for turn 2.
So, Lucas Auer on a mission. He is up to 7th on the road. He'll be 6th on corrected times, given the penalty that will be applied to the Audi. So, from a pretty unprepossessing grid position of 21st, the tyres now working, are looking very racy indeed. He does go well in these 1-hour races, as we've seen in the DTM, and even though he's only doing the half hour, so to speak, in this, the sprint format really suits him. Right, he is on his toes, trying to find a way past the Audi as they come out of turn 10 here. And the Audi is wide.
Yeah, it runs very wide. It looks like Ferrari's maybe running out of a little bit of front-end grip, and now Lucas Auer will get a run at him. Whether he's close enough, I don't think he is, unless the Audi really struggles on the entry into these final 3 corners at the back of the circuit.
So Lucas Auer, with 9 minutes on the clock still, is pushing, and now Niederhauser has dropped into the clutches of Benjamin Goerten there, looking the Gulf-coloured McLaren. So Lorenzo Ferrari, okay, he's had his occasional wild moments, but he's hanging on to his place. He's dropped a long way back from Constantin Lapalainen, but even so, now he's under attack from the man that came here as championship leader. Over the line goes Ferrari. Over the line goes Auer. Small gap, then Niederhauser. Auer to the inside line, can't make the move there.
No, it was a little bit too far back, and to make that move down the inside, you've got to be absolutely square alongside the car, because you're going to have to get under the throttle that fraction of a second earlier than the Audi would do.
Up front, Valentino Rossi 1.3 seconds ahead. That gap's coming down again, and drama there. That is 72, Gabriel Rindoni. That's at turn 14. He's had a coming together with somebody potentially, and that car moving, but I fear is heading for the pits.
Yes, and needs to get out of the way. Let's have a look and see. Oh, it was. Oh, that was still the end of all that.
Wow.
We didn't catch the beginning of it. I don't know whether that was a lunge down the inside and just too quick and not lost. I'd like to see that again because it suddenly appears almost out of wherever. So the gap first to second, 1.3 seconds, 7 minutes and a little bit longer remaining.
And there is Auer on the inside of Ferrari for 6th place, and the Mercedes goes through. Lucas Auer has done it. So great effort by both him and Engel. This from 21st on the grid up into the top 6. And I don't think they're going to be able to do anything about further cars up the road. But what this now does is shovel, if you like, Ferrari back into the clutches of Niederhauser, who is looking ever more committed to finding a way through.
Well, he has been behind the Audi pretty much all the way through anyway. There's only Lucas Auer who's mixed up this group by getting past the Porsche, getting past the Audi. And Benjamin Goethe sitting back in the McLaren thinking, well, when's my opportunity going to come?
So Patrick Niederhauser with 7 minutes on the clock. There is Philipp Sager, who now is under attack for his class lead. Darren Lung right there behind him. This, with 7 minutes to go, is for the bronze win. And Darren Lung, the reigning British GT champion, and without damage on his car, would look the stronger of the two, in my money.
I think you're right.
Philipp Sager hanging on to the place for the Dynamic GT team, but for Century Motorsport, the British team, run by Nathan Freak, former racer himself, Darren Lung, after a great opening stint by Dan Harper, is ready to pounce. And it won't be long, I think, before we see that BMW commit. It may even be a kind of Vanthor dive down to turn 8. What do you think?
Don't know the driver well enough to make that observation, but certainly quicker than you can see than the Porsche. Place you can do it is down into turn 8. But again, he was very cautious. He showed his nose, he showed what he was planning on doing, but he didn't actually make the commitment and take the consequences on the exit of the corner.
Darren Lung's only been racing for about 3 or 4 years, but he's done a lot of mileage in a short space of time, and winning British GT last year in a dramatic last race at Donington Park was quite something. He's on the back of Zaga as they come towards us then. This lap 35, and we're looking at the bronze lead battle. Lung, lap after lap after lap, quicker, 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 and by demonstrable margins. But now Philipp Sager has got to make that car as wide as he can. And look at the two leading BMWs. The gap has come right down. Half a second at the start of the lap. So there's one BMW trying to win its class. There are two BMWs trying to win the race outright. And now traffic is going to be key.
Absolutely. This is going to be the final decider of which of these two BMWs will take the winner's honours. And right now, I would not like to say it's going to be the blue or the red car, because I think Charles Veitch sees this as his opportunity. He might think a legitimate opportunity if Valentino Rossi finds himself hitting the traffic at the wrong part of the racetrack and maybe handing the advantage back to Veitch.
That was Yves Weerts looking on from the pit bunker, Charles' father, and of course the co-owner of the WRT team, part of the Weerts group. As the leading BMWs come up towards the end of the lap, how many more laps can they squeeze out of 5 minutes? Bearing in mind it's just over 90 seconds to a lap. Up towards the timing line they come. 3 more laps maybe for Valentino Rossi. That's Maxime Martin saying, go on, Valet, go on, go on, go on. But he knows how good Charles Weerts is, and the gap is 0.39, 5 less than ever. Off the road and back on again has gone the number 18, Pietro Deliguanti, Lamborghini up the road ahead, and they will encounter that on this lap. Rossi under great pressure.
I mean, if Veitch thinks he's going to win, he's got to think about where is my strength over Rossi? And that maybe he thinks up into turn 8 and you hang back through 4 and 5 to get a maximum run through turn 6. Valentino Rossi all over the headlamp flasher to get the Lamborghini to respond, to step aside. Well, I'm not in your race, friend. Let me go. I'm in a big challenge for overall victory here.
Charles Weerts might just like to bear in mind that if he beats Valentino Rossi in Valet's back garden, as it were, he may well get lynched. But right now, he wants the points for the win. He wants the win. He wants everything that goes with it. The last thing on his mind is protecting Valentino Rossi's fan club. Down they come towards turn 11. In the first sector of the lap, Valet was quicker. In the second sector of the lap, Weerts is quicker.
But bear in mind that this 32 BMW will start from pole and later on this evening. So their win may not necessarily come here, but it certainly almost could be, not guaranteed, but it's got to be a very strong possibility of winning from pole position when we go dark at 9 o'clock.
I'm tempting fate by saying this, but despite all the pressure, and that's Darren Lung off the road. was going to say Valentino Rossi looking very accomplished and soaking up the pressure, and then Darren Lung makes a mistake, so that takes the pressure off Philip Zaga in bronze, doesn't it? Leaders go through 3 minutes. I reckon there are 2 more laps in this race.
So the gap last lap was fractionally to the advantage of Valentino, so he picked up a half a tenth of a second or so. There you can see the differences, plus on one lap, minus on another lap. And where is the traffic? So just looking to see how far ahead Valentino's got to think for these final 2 3/4 minutes.
Charles Weerts, a more experienced GT racer, and comes down now in towards turn 8. Doesn't attack there. Of course, he wants the win, but he's not going to do anything silly that risks taking the cars out of the race or picking up damage. Better second place points than no points. Through turn 10, a lap and a bit to go. The grandstands have all gone very silent at the moment as all the Rossi fans are holding their collective breath. Behind is Giacomo Altway, who's not really being able to make inroads, is he?
No, he's 15.5 seconds behind, and basically I think they're consolidating. They've got the 3rd position. Oh, up the inside, Charles Weerts. Ooh.
Okay, Valet, I'm going to win this race, he says, if you make a mistake. I'm not going to let you have it easy. I might not come charging up the inside, but I'm going to try and unsettle you. And Rossi now knows that he's in a big, big battle with a lap to go. There's also traffic up the road. This could be a very dramatic last lap. In fact...
Maybe 2 more laps.
You've taken the words. Looking at the clock, 1 minute and 46. Maxime Martin studies the timing. They go across the line with 1 minute and 40, so it is still 2 laps to go. Rossi leads by 0.4 of a second.
Ooh, tetchy time, both for the race leader and for Weerts in second place. Again, what, just a fraction of a tenth, less than a tenth of a second. Last lap, best is 3.5 tenths. So no question of which is the quicker of the 2 combinations, but it's about, are we going to let these 2 go at it bare knuckle?
Yeah.
Or are we going to say, look, bring your 2 cars home? Charles Weerts, Dries van Thor, your chance is going to come later this evening.
Mixed emotions as Weerts has a look to the inside of Rossi. You saw Dries van Thor, who'd driven 32 earlier on, and Maxime Martin bouncing on his toes, looking at the screen, having done the great early stint in 46. But Rossi is still there, and he's not put a wheel out of line. I hope I'm not tempting fate by saying all of this, as Weerts goes way up the curb on the inside at turns 9 and 10. And again, look, he's really quick in a straight line. He had a tentative look here a lap ago. He gets a bit of a toe down towards turn 11. But Rossi is able to keep the door closed coming towards the corner, and at 12 as well.
I mean, it looked to me Weerts was the quicker of the 2 out of turn 10. And that's, you can see the gap has been virtually negligible as they go through now. This is one of the slower corners, turn 14. But all Valentino's got to do is just hit his points, not make any errors, not allow the pressure from Charles Weerts as they're going to come up now to complete the penultimate lap and go on to this final lap. And Maxime Martin, well, you can see he's concerned. He doesn't think this is a slam dunk for WRT. He thinks this is a battle for the lead, even on the final lap.
6 seconds on the clock when they broke the beam. So 1 more lap and back markers up the road, and Valentino Rossi leads at his home circuit, the scene of his first car race win. It could be the scene of a second, which would be a great result. But Charles Weerts, he's not giving up. He's right there on the tail of 46 as they turn out of turn 4. Rossi's heart starts to sink because he can see there are back markers up the road, and they're coming down towards turn 8, one of the few parts of the racetrack where he knows he might be vulnerable. In fairness, look, one back marker possibly with a problem, very slow down the back straight. That's one of the Boots and VDS Mercedes keeping out of the way. The gap has come right down.
I mean, for Rossi, he's got cars all over the racetrack up ahead of him. The Aston Martin is going to come into play by the time they get down into turns 12, 13 and 14. And could we see a last-minute shock change? The lead going to the 32 and losing it for 46.
Anything's possible. Rossi gets out of the draft of the Aston then from ComTU and goes through. So 2 Belgian teams, WRT and ComTU, but I think Rossi now has just managed to put a little bit more daylight between himself and Charles Weerts. A second career win in Fanatec GT for Valentino Rossi is around, not this corner, not the one after it, but the one after that as they turn their way up towards the end of the lap. That's 14, then there's 15 and 16, and I don't think Weerts is going to be able to dive up the inside. Valentino Rossi has done a fantastic job to withstand the pressure. 1 corner to go, checkered flag at the ready, and Valentino Rossi is going to win on home soil. Checkered flag waves. Valentino Rossi and Maxime Martin win race 1 at Misano. A delighted Maxime Martin celebrates in the pit lane, and Valentino Rossi's fan club starts to celebrate in the grandstands as well.
If you thought last year's victory was a great victory, I tell you what, this was way, way better because he was under pressure basically all the way through his stint. And he didn't flinch, he didn't make an error. Okay, Verts was catching him, but at the end of the day, he got it done. He took the checkered flag, and I think that's a fantastic, happy Rossi.
Let's hear from the radio.
Die,
You think they're happy? So Valentino Rossi wins by 0.275 of a second. What a drive.
I reckon now after Valentino's given that little chant, cheer, sing song, that'll make it into the Italian top 20, whatever genre of music.
Well, last year, remember, he stopped in front of the grandstand and celebrated. He's done some donuts already. You saw him spin turn the car down at the end of the pit straight. But what a drive. Go back 12 months and a bit, and I said to John about Valentino Rossi, where can he improve? And John said, everywhere. Well, he's got better and better and better. He's got faster. There are far fewer errors, and that, for really the whole of the second part of the race, to soak up the pressure from the sister car was quite an achievement. Sam Dehaan and Callum Williams, by the way, have won silver. Gilles Magnus and Paul Everard have won, there they are, gold. And bronze, Philip Saga and Marvin Dienst hung on to win the class after Darren Lung's spin. And deservedly so, I think you could say, after Marvin Dienst's great early stint. Whew, what a race.
A race of a lot of racing. I tell you, there's a lot of guys up there who are pushing absolutely to the limit. I mean, we saw Dries van Thor's move on the Ferrari. That's all been no action taken, and I'm delighted to see it because at some point, when you get two pro drivers racing, as long as there is no obvious loser, in other words, if one of the two cars had retired as a consequence, then I would say a punishment is deserved. But when you're going at it like they were going at it, a little bit of rub, okay, it's acceptable.
So Valentino Rossi slows right down in front of the grandstand to celebrate. I think he'd like every round to be at Misano, wouldn't he? It's clearly a lucky circuit in GT3 racing for him. And he's on the grass as well. It'll help with the pickup of the car in terms of raising the weight and the ride height, but more so, he's near to the fans. That matters.
And I think also very important for Valentino Rossi, he's racing at the circuit Marco Simoncelli, who was his great buddy in the world and the times when they're racing in the MotoGP.
Well, this could be quite a long interview, given how loquacious he can be and how happy he will be when he gets out of the car.
I think Antonio should request another little chant, another little rendition of his cheer.
It's impossible in a way, isn't it, not to fall under the Valentino Rossi spell, because he is just such a great character. Maxime Martin is the first one to go and say well done, and deservedly well done. He didn't luck into that win. Valentino Rossi had to drive his heart out under massive pressure, underline block capitals, red ink pressure, in order to win that race. And a better drive out of Valentino Rossi we have never seen.
No, and I think the other factor was that Valentino, after the great job by Maxime Martin, who brought the car in the lead, another superb pit stop by WRT, all he had to do was focus on what was ahead, and any time that anybody was getting close to him, namely the 32 BMW, he was able to respond sufficiently to keep his lead and to take victory.
9 times a world motorcycling champion, and now one of the leading lights in GT3 racing as well. Dries van Thor tries to say well done, but Val is a bit busy.
Tell you, the memorabilia at the circuit going to be flying off the shelves
yes,
right
indeed. Maxime Martin, who should not be forgotten in all of this because he teed all that up from pole position. Great stint. Dries van Thor does now say well done. Charles Weerts likewise after chasing hard. Couldn't quite do it. All smiles. You can tell that, even though he's still got his helmet on. And somebody else that will be very happy will be the marketing department of BMW, because to have Valentino driving one of your cars and winning races in it is great for coverage.
But also winning in the manner in which he won, because that was a battle, albeit Weerts had to be careful not to make a move that would have jeopardized basically both of the BMWs. So he had to balance that against his slightly higher pace. Nevertheless, he dropped back over 2 seconds at one point due to traffic, and then got it back down to under half a second to 0.275 crossing the line.
There aren't many people left that Valle has not embraced, but He is, as you can see, absolutely overjoyed with that, and deservedly so. So finally, the crash helmet will come off in a moment. Maxime Martin's already got his winner's hat on, and the celebration's well and truly underway. Clearing the pit lane for the next race might take some doing, I would have thought, but off comes the crash helmet. And for the second year in a row, a winner in Misano is that man, Valentino Rossi.
And you can see by the amount of sweat on his head, he had to work. He worked for that victory. It takes you back to the days of MotoGP almost. The chanting in the pit lane after another success. I think it was mainly he raced Yamaha, if I'm not mistaken, in MotoGP.
Indeed, for many, many seasons. Well, now that he's finished with all the team members and the family and the friends, there's the media to consider. Photographs and an interview. Antonia Rankin is patiently waiting her turn. I think last year when Gemma Scott interviewed Valle after his first win, she got a hug and a kiss. We'll see whether Antonia is so lucky. But it's a delighted Valentino Rossi, a delighted Maxime Martin, and that gives us a third different winning combination in the 3 races this year. Right, to the pit lane. Let's go.
Guys, the home heroes, both of you, what a fantastic teamwork. I'll come to you first. You came in with a fantastic lead, left it in a great place for Valle.
Yeah, we had a really strong car, good start, good first stint. The team did a fantastic job at the pit stop, so we could stay at the lead, and then, yeah, Valentin did the finish, and he was under the pressure, but he kept there, and fantastic race.
Now, Valle, blimming well done. You came under so much pressure at the end there. You really must have been feeling it.
Yeah, it was difficult. This was the best one because I had the Charles very close to the last lap. I drive very, very well. Does not make mistake, but he was very, very strong. But I think that if I drive well also on the last lap was okay. And yes, another one in Misano. We are so happy, thanks to Maxime, that gave me the car with some advantage so I can breathe a little bit at the beginning.
Is there anything you'd like to say to your home fans?
Thanks to everybody. It's great to see a lot of people for these races, and I hope that we'll continue like this.
Brilliant. Congrats, guys. Congratulations.
Well, Valentino Rossi saying that was a better win than last year, and that was quite something. But he's right, and we've been saying it. He was under constant pressure for pretty much half the race.
No, that was a much. You can see the growth in maturity, particularly, but just dealing with pressure, and that was a lot of pressure indeed from his own teammate in the 32 car. And he didn't. The key was he didn't make any on-track errors. And if Verts was going to find a way around, he was going to have to find that way because it wasn't going to be dished up to him through a driving error by Valentino.
So BMW number 46 wins once more, and it'll be fascinating to see whether now that can be translated to more success over the course of the season as the victorious teams are there at the bottom of the podium. The drivers will be whisked there very shortly, where we have Pro, Gold, Silver and Bronze top 3s. But, of course, the teams have a limited amount of time because they will be back on track for the 9 o'clock start of the night race. So we have quite a lot of racing in the meantime. Renaults, GT4, McLarens and GT2, but then GT3 back on track in the darkness. And that's going to be quite something, isn't it? Let's go to the pit lane and hear from the vanquished. Charles Weerts and Dries van Voor. 0.2 of a second was all they lost by.
Guys, I can imagine you must be so frustrated, but both of you put in an incredible, incredible stint.
Yeah, I tried my best in the first stint to get as close to the front as possible. Was a tough stint, hard racing, but I think it was nice racing for everyone to watch, so that's good. Yeah, and then we just came short at the end. I mean, we tried. I think the qualifying position for sure was the the deciding thing today for this race at least. But second place, good points, and we've got another race coming up, so it's not too bad.
Charles, what an incredible second stint. You must have been praying for Valle to make a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, to come back to what you said, I would not call it frustration, really. It's more disappointment. Personally, I would have for sure liked to overtake Valle, but taking a step back, it's great for the team, having a 1-2 and also the win in silver. And Valle, a win for him on his home race. It's very positive, it's very good. It's also a good point for the championship. I tried to push him to make a mistake. Of course, driving in the same team, we don't want to take too much risk, but I have to say he did a very, very good job. He did not make any mistakes. He was on pace, and yeah, it was just not enough to overtake him today.
Well, incredible drives from both of you and a great result for the team. Congrats, guys.
So Charles Wirtz takes it on the chin, and he's right. It is points in the championship.
Yeah, and he was magnanimous in his observations. Valentino did not make a mistake. He was subjected to a severe amount of pressure, and he didn't flinch, he didn't fold. He kept his head, he kept his position. And, I mean, OK, you could say if they'd started from pole position, that car had taken pole position, but that was taken away because of a track limit violation. If they'd started in pole alongside the 46 car, maybe we'd be talking about a different race result.
Well, there in replay, super slow-mo shots of number 32 BMW. Second place then to Charles Wirtz and Dries Vanthoor. And this, the race result. Maxime Martin and Valentino Rossi win. 39 laps of drama from Dries Vanthoor and Charles Wirtz. Third, another good improvement, Thierry Vermeulen and Giacomo Altway. Ben Green and Conor Lapalainen fourth, ahead of Maro Engel and Lucas Auer, with Callum Williams and Sam de Haan sixth, winning in silver. The winning gold Cup car 13th, the Audi of Paul Everard and Gilles Magnus, just ahead of the winning bronze, Marvin Dienst and Philip Saga. Well done, Callum Williams and Sam de Haan, who dominated silver throughout the race. Second win of the season for those two. And Paul Everard and Gilles Magnus winning in gold. The Santilloc Audi coming through. Gilles Magnus, part of the Rob Huff driver management stable. He was at Brands Hatch last week with Gilles, watching British touring cars, but no doubt about the pro winners, Maxime Martin and Valentino Rossi. One retirement, Ricardo Feller's damaged Audi. One non-starter, technical problem keeping Dennis Marshall and Dustin Blattner out of the race. So a few hard luck stories, a number of cars getting themselves in the odd scrape, but the teams will be hard at work to try and not only sort out any issues, but also think about the setup, because for the evening race, it's going to be cooler, and that's going to have an effect, as there, Valentino Rossi, who is about to be cheered to the echo, gets ready to step forward onto the podium. Driver's been called forward. Giacomo Altway and Thierry Vermeulen, third in pro, step onto the podium for Emil Frey Racing. And then for second place, it will be the BMW WRT drivers, Dries Vanthoor and Charles Wirtz. They come round the front of the podium, thinking points, but also thinking of what could have been. That's a lugubrious step to the podium from Charles Wirtz. Then WRT represented for the team's award. And then, should you need reminding, winners at Misano. Race one of the weekend. Maxime Martin and Valentino Rossi. And that picture tells you everything, doesn't it? All smiles, a happy crowd. Maxime Martin back at the front. It was perhaps a tough season initially with Valet, teaching him, learning with him, growing into this race-winning combination. But Maxime Martin now is able to think of coming to races and fighting for a race win once more. The whistle's blowing in the pit lane to try and warn people that there are lots of Renault Clios heading out onto the circuit. So the national anthem of Belgium for WRT rather drowned out as the trophies are presented then. To third place, Giacomo Altway and Thierry Vermeulen. It is Andrea Albani, the managing director of the Misano World Circuit, that gives the trophies to the third to the second there, Dries Vanthoor and Charles Wirtz. And then to the winning team of WRT. And then two race winners, Valentino Rossi and Maxime Martin, two very, very happy drivers. A wonderful drive by Valentino Rossi, and there is more GT3 action to come from Misano later on with lights out at 9 o'clock. But Maxime Martin and Valentino Rossi are the race winners. Champagne sprayed here at Misano, and Very, very happy drivers with Valentino Rossi, absolutely stoked. But he cares not, he's a race winner.
No, I mean, it's been a wonderful afternoon, and you can see the delight on his face. He'll go back, he's got a big motorhome unit here. Get out of those champagne-covered overalls, get into the shower, refresh, maybe have something to eat, sit back, watch what's on TV for an hour or so, and then get back into the zone and think about what I'm going to do at 9 o'clock tonight. But Dave, I just want to point out one thing. There was another winner in this race. We're not going to see them on the podium. The team that got the fastest pit stop was, ironically, the 26 Santa Lock Racing Audi. 1:30.1, whatever it was. It was a very, very 2/10 quicker than anybody else. Just a little bit of housekeeping. I thought it amused me to see it. The car finished down at the bottom of the field. In fact, it didn't finish. It finished about 10 laps out of the maximum.
Good spot. Well done. Oh, champagne bottles fall to the ground. Well, that's one podium done, and it is the most popular result that the fans here could have had. We might have to rename this circuit if Valentino keeps on winning, but what a result. And every time he does this, every time he's able to beat somebody like a Charles Weerts, as an example, the confidence increases.
I mean, it's just about growing. I mean, you've spent your whole life riding two wheels, getting your knee out, getting your shoulder out, and scraping it along the racetrack. And then you go from all that into something that doesn't lean or shouldn't lean, and you've got to relearn.
How about this in the championship? Half a point between Aert and Engel, Weerts and Banthor. Ben Green and Conte Lapalainen are third, Altway and Vermeulen fourth. But a tough weekend thus far for Lucas Aert and Mauro Engel, who is determined, Mauro, to win the sprint championship, is making it very competitive indeed. There are, of course, 10 races within the Sprint Cup, 5 events, 10 races, and already it's very close indeed, with Valentino Rossi and Maxime Martin now fifth ahead of Alex Arca and Ricardo Feller, who didn't score in that race. Tough start to the year as well for Maxi Goetz and Jules Gounon, who you almost ignored in that race because they really struggled to get through the traffic, and we'll see whether the cooler temperatures have an impact at all when we go to the night race, which you've got to say is going to be something really special, isn't it? There's something about racing at night, and around here it'll be really interesting.
I mean, the place looks fantastic at night, the way the illumination around the racetrack, and certainly when you get the drone shots going through 3, 4, 5, and 6, it just gives you a different dimension. But of course, lower temperatures will affect some of the brands more than others, and it's how you can manage to get a little bit of temperature into your tires, the fronts particularly, before the lights go green.
We have Charlie Eastwood and Salo Jolic for third in the Gold Cup. We've got Luca Engschler and Max Hofer for second, and the class winners make their way to the top step. Paul Everard and Gilles Magnus. So for the French Sansalot Racing Team, Gilles Magnus and Paul Everard. Gilles nearest to us there, talking to Luca Engschler, takes the win. And the trophy is now being presented to Charlie Eastwood and Salo Jolic, who's struggled a bit for pace today in the Ferrari, has Sally, but an experienced driver these days. Luca Engschler for the Licky Moly Team Engschler by One Group Audi team. There is the Santalok trophy, presented by Andrea Albani. And then to the Gold Cup winners, Paul Everard and Gilles Magnus. Trophies to the winners. They don't get quite the same cheer as Valentino Rossi did, but even so, a good drive by the Gold Cup winning Audi combination. Gilles Magnus, who remains one of the stars of this championship. He's not had a breakthrough overall win yet, but in terms of class results, he's very, very highly regarded, isn't he?
Certainly in my book, he's one of the stars, I mean, of the present, forget about the future. And from the minute he got into a GT3 car, there was just a quality about his driving that I think stood out.
Yeah. So gold and pro done, silver and bronze to come. As you see the Renault grid all sorted on track. They will be racing shortly for a 25-minute race, plus a lap. And Paul Everard then with Gilles Magnus leading in gold. Luca Engschler and Max Hofer are 3 points back, and then Simon Gachet and Lucas Legere come next. So Gilles Magnus there, leading in gold. But a very good drive by the two Audi drivers as the fans turn their attention next to the silver podium, which is about to get busy, as first up will be Rhys Barr and Magnus Gustafsson for Winward Racing, the Mercedes drivers. They step forward. Then for second place, it will be Sean Hudspeth, the Singaporean, and Belgian driver Jeff Machiels in the AF Corsa Ferrari. There they are. Sean Hudspeth, who started off in Porsches, switched brands. And with his father, Louis Machiels, being an inveterate Ferrari racer, there was no doubt where Jeff was going to end up. And there for the victorious team, the representative comes to the podium. And it is WRT once again. Sam de Haan with the beard, Callan Williams ahead of him are victorious, nay, dominant in silver as WRT celebrates another class win today. So congratulations to the Silver Cup winners. Trophies being presented. And there are the silver victors, Callan Williams and Sam de Haan, having taken pole, having dominated the race. A very, very impressive drive indeed. We have, of course, a second race to come from Misano, and that will be at 9 o'clock tonight local time. But for now, from John Watson and David Addison in the sunshine of Italy, thanks for your company. We'll see you tonight. Bye for now.